Hello everyone. Uh, let's just quickly recapitulate the previous lesson that we had talked about, and that was about needs of the self and the body. That why do we need certain things? Why is it important? We talked about trust and respect, how they work in a tandem. How is it important? How without each other, the other part cannot move on, and that the decline of one automatically leads to the decline of the other. Then we talked about justice and mutual fulfillment. How can we feel completely satisfied? How justifiable are we? How equitable are we? How at various places we can fulfill all these requisites, all these requirements. Then we talked about clarity of human interaction in the family and society, that how transparency and how truthfulness and how trust can help us into maintaining good, into maintaining better relationship, into clearer relationship, so that as a person we are growing, as an individual we are growing as a society, we are growing as a family. So all of it was important. And today we begin with yet another module, and the module is Harmony with Society and Nature. Today's lesson 3.1, we talk about two important things, that we talk about universal human order from family to world, ecological harmony, interconnectedness with nature. Let's see and talk about universal human order. The concept of universal human order, Sarvabhaum Vyavastha, envisions a harmonious society that extends from the individual to the entire world, based on shared understanding of human values and purpose. So, we as a center focal point, it then the sphere of life moves on. And if we are not at harmony with ourselves, we cannot be at harmony with anything around us. So we need to understand that we as an individual, we as a singular person, needs to be with harmony at myself, at my soul, at my body, at my mind. It is only then that I will be able to spread that same harmony, that same fulfillment in the entire world, beginning from the family to the society to the environment, and so on and so forth. This framework suggests that true well being and sustainability can only be achieved where there is harmony at all levels of human existence and with the nature. So, every level would mean the very first being ourselves, with the mind, the body, and the soul, going on to the family as a unit. And the family also has got lots of members which are older, members which are younger, members which are ailing, members which are healthy, members which are working, members which are not working. So every person has its own requirement, every person has its own goal, every person has its own advantages, has its own disadvantages, has its own reason of fulfillment. So we need to be in tandem with everything around us. Then we talk about the society that we are in, whether we are studying, we talk about our workplace. When we study, we talk about the people around us, our peers, because they influence us and we influence them. So it has to be a balance. Then we talk about workplaces, where we need to work together as an organization for organizational growth. A single person, an individual, is not solely reliant for the development of a place or organization or a structure. Then we talk about nature. We live in an environment where there's so much of input that is required by us, so much of input that can help the environment that we live in into a better place, the environment that we live in into a better place for another person who's with us. So it's not selfish gain. We take a look at it circumferentially. It is a complete unit. Though we begin from the base as self, but then we keep expanding, and then that expands, keeps increasing, and then it encompasses so much that we talk about the nature, the environment, the family, the society, everything into it. Now let's see, there's a breakdown of how this order is conceptualized, moving from family to the world. means from smaller to a greater. Yeah. The foundation is the base, the framework. Who is the framework or the base? The individual, us, we, I as an individual, you as an individual. So what do we have to do for that? We need to have a right understanding. It involves developing clarity within oneself about what it means to be human, one's natural acceptance, and the purpose of life. How well do I know myself? How well do I accept the state of mind? How well do I accept my physical attributes? Everything comes into play. What I want, what I aspire to be. We talked about aspirations, human aspirations, and prosperity also. So, purpose of life is that what I aspire to be, what I want to do ultimately with my life. How is it affecting me? It's about understanding the inherent harmony within oneself. Inherent means the inbuilt harmonious system. None of us wants to be at not be at peace or be at a upheaval or be at a discord with anyone around us or not be satisfied or not be balanced. So we basically want to live in harmony with ourselves, with everything that is around us, and ourselves first, because if we are not in harmony with ourselves, how can we be with harmony in anything that is around us? If we are at peace, we will spread peace. If we are not at peace, how can we spread peace? Then coming on to the right feeling, cultivating feelings of trust, we've talked about. Respect, we've talked about at large, and we've also seen how they work in togetherness. They cannot be individualistic, they can be together. Affection, care, guidance, reverence, gratitude, glory, and love in relationships. So, affection we have for our siblings, for our older people in the house. Care we have again for our siblings. For a person who's going through a bad phase in life, we have care. Guidance we have for a person who needs help into navigating with something in life. We can always lend a helping hand. Reverence is there for much older people who need to be respected irrespective of how we are treated, but they do need respect. Gratitude, how thankful you are for the life that you have, how thankful you are that you are living in a certain way, you are living in a certain place, that you have a nice content family. Glory, the achievements that you have, that whatever you are able to achieve and encompass in your life. Love in relationship, whether you are acknowledged as a person, whether you are a loving person, whether you are getting the love that you respect. Right skill for prosperity, developing the competence to identify needs and produce physical facilities, sustainability, leading to a feeling of prosperity. Physically, is your body attuned into acquiring something that you want, attuned into acquiring a benchmark, attuned into acquiring something which is desirable, something which is going to satisfy you, something which is going to bring harmony into your life. So all of it matters. So we talked about right understanding, we talked about the right feeling, then we talked about the right skill for being prosperous. Now expanding to the family. Now, since we talked about the self, which is the focal point, the central point, now we begin to expand our circle. And the nearest when we expand our circle is we expand into the family. That's the nearest. So, harmony in relationships. The family is the basic unit where human relationships are primarily experienced. So, we are very close. That is the nearest we can have tangible to us, where we can experience relationships, where we can experience feelings, etc. The universal human order emphasizes that relationships are between oneself and another self, and that definite feeling exists in these relationships. Now, when we want respect, we need to respect also. When we want to be loved, we need to love also. When we want to care, we have to be cared for also. So it is just a give and take, and here I will not call it barter, but it is genuineness that we need to have, genuineness that we need to exhibit. It is only then that things will work. Then we have justice. Within the family, justice is understood as the recognition, fulfillment, and evaluation of these definite feelings, leading to mutual happiness. So, in a house, we don't expect too large a spectrum of justice, but yes, when we talk about equity, equality in siblings, equality in genders, that is when justice comes into play. That is when recognition and fulfillment comes into play. So we talk about all these spectrums, and then when we are moving from the self-centric to the family unit, yes, they are very important. I'm sure you too realize that they're very important. Prosperity for every family. The goal is not just individual understanding, but also the ability to ensure physical well being and a sense of abundance with each family without accumulation at the cost of others. Now, when we talk about physical well being, we talked initially that the human body needs to work in tandem with the mind. If I do not have a fulfilling body, how can I have a fulfilling mind? It is very, very difficult to not feel physically fit and then think sensibly. So everything has to go in together. And when can abundance happen? Abundance can only happen when things are going in tandem, when things are together, when things work in a balance in the family. And we don't have to accumulate things at the cost of others. Means we don't have to be hoarders of anything. We need to just have sufficient to manage and steer our life well, to live a balanced life. Let's go on to extending to the society. Now, when we talk about the society, we talk about so many of the values that we had talked about in the module 1. We had talked about fearlessness and trust. So, when individuals have right understanding and families experience prosperity and justice, it naturally leads to a sense of fearlessness and trust in society. Fearlessness is not for the wrong reasons. Fearlessness is for the right causes, that we are not fearful of doing the right things, that we are mindful of doing the right things. We can be mindful of doing the right things and then have trust in the society. Because a person who is mindful obviously is trustworthy also. So when you are without any fear for the right cause, yes, things fall into place. This trust forms the bedrock of a harmonious society. So, if we want to live in a harmonious society, a society which is in peace, then we need to have trust. We need to have fearlessness, but into the correct direction. Education sanskar means right living, fostering right understanding and definite human conduct in every individual. Right understanding means when we know what we are doing is right or it is wrong, and then if we are knowing what we are doing is right and then we mindfully choose to do the right, is absolutely good. But when our moral compass stops to work, so that is when we sometimes falter and get into something wrong. So that is when happens that we falter and something actually goes wrong, but then who is to be blamed? We are to be blamed. So do we want to take the blame on ourselves? No, we don't. So it's better to have a righteous living, a right kind of a living. Health and self-regulation, ensuring the well-being of the body through proper nurturing, protection and utilization along with self-discipline. Proper nurturing, how we are brought up, how we are brought up by our parents, how we are brought up in the environment that is set in our house is nurturing. How we are nurtured in the school, in the institutions that we are. If we are working, how as step one when we join afresh in a place, how we are nurtured then, how we are protected, how we make others feel protected, how our resources are utilized, how we utilize the resources, how we utilize our feelings, how we want to be utilized by the other person. So there is a lot that encompasses the self-discipline aspect, does bring everything together in place for us. Undivided society, Akhand Samaj, when everything is together, everything works for a common cause, everything works for a good cause, to uplift everyone up, uplift the environment up, nurture and nature actually. The vision is to move towards a society where there is no division or exploitation, where all individuals feel related to each other. So, of late, we have seen that there have been so many wars, there have been so many conflicts where one society has pulled down the other society. But has it helped us? No, it hasn't. It has only brought down upheavals and so much of disparity and so much of mistrust, so much of disrespect amongst us. Do we want to live in a society like that? I'm sure we don't want to. So let's just sum up what we have been talking about, what we have been just talking and reading about. The universal human order is a progressive expansion of harmony. Individual harmony, right understanding with oneself, how we understand and we want to live with ourselves as a person, as an individual. Family harmony, right understanding and definite feelings in relationships, leading to mutual happiness and prosperity. When we live in a family unit, what do we need? We need good relationships. We need to be happy. When can we be happy? When the other person in the family is happy. If a person is unwell in the family, if a person is not happy in one family unit, naturally the entire is affected. The equilibrium is disturbed. Then we have societal harmony, extension of trust, justice, and responsible production and exchange across communities. So, when we have all of these, that we are moving hand in hand towards each other, embracing each other, forgiving each other, knowing each other, talking to each other without any biases, without any differences, with a heart which has compassion, with a heart which has lots of empathy, it is only then that we are able to live well. It is only then that we have individual harmony, we have family harmony, we have societal harmony. Let's talk about ecological harmony and the interconnectedness of the ecological harmony with nature. Ecological harmony and interconnectedness, how they are related with nature, are fundamental concepts that recognize the intricate web of relationship within ecosystems and the vital role each component plays in maintaining balance and sustainability. So, here it is like a vehicle with tires. So, one tire, when it is missing, the vehicle cannot run. So is like ecological harmony. So when we have relationships, they are very, very fragile, very thin. If they are not handled with care, things do not move on, things cannot happen. So everything has its own role to play. Another thing cannot take over a role. Suppose that it's a family system, and if you have a parent, then you cannot take over the parent's role. The parent plays their own important role and is important as a wheel, like a four-wheeler, like a car. They highlight that humanity is not separate from nature but an integral part of it. And our well being is directly linked to the health of the natural world. If the natural world that we live in is healthy, it is only then that we are healthy. For instance, when we talk about Delhi, Delhi goes through such bad phases of pollution that people there remain so distraught. There are so many people who are having breathing issues, and there are so many elderly people who are having difficulty living. Why? Because we are not in harmony. And we need to understand that we need to be in harmony with the natural world so that we can live well, we can survive well. Ecological harmony, what does it refer to? Ecological harmony refers to a state of dynamic equilibrium within an ecosystem where all living organisms, be it plants, animals, microorganisms, and their non living environment, air, water, soil, sunlight, interact in a way that supports the continued health and functioning of the whole system. Plants and animals, can they survive without air or water, without sunlight? No, they cannot. So it's in balance, in harmony. Natural processes are undisturbed. Processes like photosynthesis, like decomposition, and pollination occur without significant human interference that would disrupt their balance. So, does photosynthesis need a human? No, it doesn't. Does pollination need a human? No, it doesn't. How does pollination happen? With the help of a bee, with the help of a bird. How does decomposition happen? Do we do anything for that? No, we don't. Microorganisms do that for us. So it's a process about a balanced state where resources are used and recycled efficiently, populations are regulated naturally, biodiversity flourishes, natural are undisturbed. When an ecosystem is an ecological harmony, it can sustain itself over long periods. It can go on providing essential ecosystem services like clean air and water, fertile soil, climate regulation, and pollination, which are crucial for all life, including human life. So, in this lesson that we end 3.1, we do see how important a person's thought process is, how important a person's behavior is, how important it is for a human to connect well with the family as a system, with the world as a system, how we have to live in ecological harmony and not disturb the balance so that everything keeps running smoothly. The animals, the plants, everything, the air, the water, the soil, everything runs smoothly. Why? For us to live in a balance, for us to live well. Thank you.